On today's episode with the Leadership Initiative, we're joining my friend Scott Snider from the Exit Planning Institute in Cleveland, Ohio. He is a pro at helping companies maximize their value and become the best version of themselves. We're going to be learning about what's it like to lead today as opposed to another generation. We're going to be talking about what are the key things that he learned in his journey that he had to implement if he was going to see completely different results from his company and from his people. It's a fascinating discussion.
At Initiative One, we're igniting a leadership revolution by helping organizations eliminate the drama, improve decision-making, and win as a team. Join Dr. Fred Johnson on the Leadership Initiative podcast as we uncover insights to maximize your impact and transform your life.
Welcome to the Leadership Initiative. I'm Dr. Fred Johnson. I'm the founder of Initiative One. Today, we are going to have a great time together with my friend, my guest, Scott Snider from Cleveland, Ohio. Let me share some things with you about Scott. We love Scott and the company that he leads. Scott, welcome.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. I appreciate this. Pretty cool studio you have here.
Well, the guys here, they're just amazing at Creative Edge, and they just do tremendous work for us.
Yeah, very cool.
How's that for a plug, my friend? So let me share a few things with you about Scott Snider. He is the president of the Exit Planning Institute in Cleveland, Ohio. We're going to be talking about that. He works and helps businesses maximize their value all over the world. Amazing company. And he's going to talk about the growth of the company, what were the keys to that along the way. There's a lot of business owners that are going to be listening to this. You're going to be interested in what he has to say. But his leadership that he's going to share with us, his leadership journey, some of the things that he learned, it's going to apply in whatever field that you're in as you're listening to this. So let me share some things. He had an entrepreneurial start. He founded his first company in high school. He completed his first business exit, sold his company by age 24. Along with his father, Chris Snyder, they acquired EPI, or Exit Planning Institute, in 2012. He and his dad have developed the value acceleration methodology. It's instrumental in developing and promoting value acceleration and it's a proven framework for business value growth and exit readiness. You're going to be shocked when you hear how many companies are not sellable and why. He's going to be sharing with us what has to happen for you to change that. He expanded EPI's global chapters, digital education, advisor network, positioning EPI as the premier authority in the United States in exit planning. His philosophy is that he believes exit planning is not an event, but it's a business strategy that creates freedom, independence, and legacy for owners. He also hosts a podcast called Leads Exit Is Now, where he plans accordingly, engaging advisors and owners on real-world exit and value growth strategies. He's very deep in community involvement. He serves on the board for St. Edward's High School Innovation and Entrepreneurship Program. That's one of the outstanding elite high schools in the state of Ohio.
Yeah.
I was raised in Ohio. You know about Moeller,
St. Ignatius.
St. Ignatius.
Yeah.
LaSalle, and then certainly St. X is always one of the ones that's, and Massillon.
Massillon.
Great athletic
Akron,
program.
Holden.
Yep.
See, bringing you back.
It's all there, buddy. Back to my high school days in Ohio. Here's something cool. He's a former owner in professional indoor soccer, the major arena Arena Soccer League. He's a member of the Forbes Business Council, nationally recognized thought leader and keynote speaker. And he has a degree in horticulture, landscape contracting, and construction from Ohio State University. Notice I didn't say the Ohio State University. And so, Scott, welcome.
Yeah, man. Thanks.
So
Big bio there.
We're just gonna chat.
Cool. Yeah.
So you and I met. When was it?
So I get the original meet was 2019. One of our certified exit planning advisors recommended you for a keynote speaking slot that we were looking for, and so we were looking. We usually, for those listeners that have seen our summit, we have like a beginning and an end kind of keynote as our bookends, and we were looking for something around leadership, and the CEPA said, hey, you got to check out this guy, and so we did, and I immediately hit it off with you, if you remember.
I remember the conversation.
It was in San Antonio, Texas. Remember that? Right before the pandemic. It would have been September 2019.
Yes.
Is when we first started hanging out.
And back then, you had about 200, 250 in attendance, and today your summit is bringing what?
Yeah, 1,100. It should bring about 1,100 people next year.
Man, you think in about 3 years you're going to be hitting about 3,000?
I think we'll be like 2,800. And if anybody from my team's listening, they know we're going to push to 3,000 for sure. You can't go 2,800 and not just push for 3, right?
You know, being a former pastor that talked about attendance number all the time, we had an ability to do what we called holy fudging on the numbers.
Yeah. Maybe I'll do some of that too.
Yeah, we had between 200 and 4,000, somewhere in between there.
Yeah. But yeah, the conference has grown quite a bit. It's been a really cool thing, and you've been back, and I think have been able to experience the growth maybe probably three times after that, right?
Yes.
So yeah, a big part of our journey for sure.
I remember I shared the stage with who was the gentleman who wrote the book Traction and started
Gino Wickman.
Yes.
Yeah.
So he was the second best speaker that day.
Of course, right?
Of
course.
But not the most humble speaker.
yeah, definitely, yeah. But yeah, is that who you shared the stage with?
Yeah,
huh? Yeah,
that's right.
That was when, it was. Because you came back for what we call a power session, which is like a TED Talk.
Yep.
And then you came back as another keynote.
Yes.
Throughout those years. And so, but we obviously took 2 years off, right? We were off in 21 and 2020. And then came back hot in 2022.
You sure
went
did.
From, to your point, 200 people at that original summit that you spoke at, and just a short few years later, we're pushing 500. So it's been a pretty crazy summit journey for sure.
That happens when you're meeting some pretty profound needs that people have in the organizations that they lead. Talk to our audience, our listeners, about what does EPI do, what's its mission, and what, as you talk about that, also talk about your leadership journey.
Oh, man.
Talk about what your leadership style was. I mean, you are an incredibly accomplished young leader. You're 40 years old.
Young leader, huh? Okay. I like that. I like that.
Being in my 60s, you're like a teenager.
Okay, perfect. This is good. I already feel great on this show.
I was walking in the parking lot a few days ago, and a gentleman came up and called me a young man, and I said, "Excuse me, but
Are you looking at,
would you say that to me again?"
Yeah, right. Yeah. So EPI, right? So the Exit Planning Institute, we are an education company, kind of similar to what you guys do, but our mission is to help business owners create more significant companies. And maybe let's explore that real quick. I think that many business owners, if you're listening, we're very proud of what we've accomplished, and we feel very successful in what we have built. But when we go to transition that company, whether it's internal to our employees or a sale to some family members, or certainly externally to a strategic or financial buyer, we're kind of slapped in the face for the first time because somebody's called our baby ugly. And even what we realize in that moment or shortly thereafter is that we've spent decades concentrating on income generation and not relating it directly to value creation. And so what we do at EPI is empower professional advisors that surround us as business owners to help take our companies from successful to significant using a methodology that my father created called the value acceleration methodology. And at the heart of that is really aligning business, personal, and financial goals. And we believe if those are kind of in harmony, if you will, that we will have a successful, significant, and fulfilling exit into the next phases or acts of our lives. But it really starts with surrounding ourselves with like-minded advisors that make it all come together. So for us, it's called a certified exit planning advisor, CEPA.
So Scott, being a business owner myself as well as yourself, we know that the vast majority of medium to small business owners, most of their wealth, their financial resources that they hope to retire on, are plowed into their business.
Absolutely.
And they think that at the end of the day, the dream is they're going to sell their company for a bunch of money. They're going to live comfortably, at least for the rest of their lives. But for the majority of the folks that I'm talking about, there's a troubling surprise that comes.
Yeah, a little bit of a rude awakening. So there's only so you're right, about 80 to 85% of our wealth as business owners is trapped inside of our business, right? I always say simply, we don't have 401ks, we have our business, right? That's our retirement plan. And so not only do we need the income from our business year over year to power our lifestyle, but if it doesn't exist, we need the wealth that it creates for us to be extracted.
When you sell it.
When you sell it,
Yeah.
right? And so, but to your point, only 70% or only 30% of the companies actually put on the market sell. That means 70% don't sell or sell for far less than what you see. And what you see these business owners like going back to work, which is always, I think, a really tough day.
Yes.
And so, yeah, it's just a new way of thinking about doing business. You said it in the intro. I believe that exit strategy is business strategy. There's nothing different, that we're doing things in our business every single day that eventually affect the exit of our company. So why not make it more focused and intentional around value growth versus just income generation for a successful year-over-year business?
You've taught me and you drilled it into me, and it has become the focus of our business strategies of Initiative One. I'm not going to be there forever.
Right.
And I also know that if a company is dependent upon me and or Tracy,
Correct.
And we're looking to transfer that company to the employees or to a third party, when they find out that we're the driver of the business, we're the number one producer of the income.
Exactly right. Yeah.
Does that create a problem?
It creates it's just not transferable, right? Because at that point I'm buying you. I'm not buying a system or a process. I'm not buying a customer pool. I'm not buying scalable or repeatable revenue, right? All the things. We were just talking about this. It's called the Four Intangible Capitals, right? You have to look at your people, your human capital, your systems, your intellectual property, your structural capital, your customers, customer capital, and your social capital, your culture. And can all of that run without you at the center of it? And when it can, you know you have something that's valuable and repeatable and scalable.
So what would you say, where one of them, you guys have been talking about this for years, but it's the current buzzword about scalability.
Sure.
What would you say to those leaders who are listening that if you want to scale your company so that one day it has maximum value, and that you're not creating what we call a lifestyle business where basically everything that goes into buying your cars and buying your mortgage.
Yeah, the boat and all that cool stuff, right? It powers your lifestyle.
Yeah, it just powers a life.
Yeah.
We're talking about something, a business that employs people, a business that does meaningful work beyond yourself. Talk about what are the keys to scaling a company and truly making it a significant organization?
So I think so it's interesting that you talk about this, right? This might be a book someday for me. Is that I'm very interested there's a lot of books out there that are talking about how business owners 10x their company, right? You've probably even read a couple. There's not a lot of books out there, I think, that I haven't found one or maybe found one that I really enjoy and that was motivating, that talks about how employees are 10xing your company. And so I think we talk a lot about, to answer your question, we talk a lot about decentralization of the owner. But how that starts is you have to create something that's about we and not me. And when I met you, that's where you also asked me about my leadership journey, right? I had built a successful company, right? Me and Dad. We bought EPI, so we didn't like build. We weren't the founders of EPI, but we had 120 SEPAs. We thought we had something special in Dad's methodology.
Explain a SEPA.
Yeah, so a certified exit planning advisor is one of our members. It's a professional advisor. They can look like a financial advisor, an attorney, a value growth consultant. They can look like a leadership or business coach. These people, a certified exit planning advisor, if you see them, you know, regardless of what role they serve inside of the process, you know that they understand what it takes to drive value into your company and align your business, personal, and financial goals. And they also know how to collaborate and work on a team, because we know that if you just took those 4 C's that I talked about, there's human capital people, there's structural people, there's sales and marketing folks, cybersecurity folks, accounting folks, legal folks. There's all these people that have to come together to help us do it. The SEPA understands how to bring that team together and kind of work in harmony. But we had 120 SEPAs. Going back to the story a bit, we knew we had something special, and so fast forward to make a long story short, Dad and I decided to buy the Exit Planning Institute and start to empower the advisor with the methodology that Dad had created. And we went from 120 SEPAs to 2,000 SEPAs from 2013 to 2020, and I had created a company with Dad, and I was primarily the operator of the company that represented solely my beliefs. And I had the core values that hung on a nice plaque. I never asked anybody about them. I literally said, these are what I believe in. Don't you? Of course. Like, we'll hang them on the wall. And we didn't have like a rhythm, and we weren't really communicating, but we were growing, so it felt good. And me and Dad and most of our core employees were all making good money, so it felt good. And then you have something drastic happen like COVID that pretty much shut down my company. So for the listeners, we have a professional education company in 2020, a professional education company that delivers only in-person education. So the month of March and April, we quite literally have zero revenue. And we pivot this entire credentialing program that we call SEPA to go online. And we go online, and in 45 days, we launch a similar product, but in a new way of doing it. And we kind of save the business, if you will. And it was a
complete different flip in your delivery
totally
model.
Flip. And for me, what a success, right? 45 days, we hunkered down. We came into a studio like this where we're recording videos that people can watch and interact with, that kind of mirrored a program that we would deliver in person with different components along the way. We had a live faculty meetup at the end of the day to bring everybody back together. And I think like a huge one, we had seriously like 450 people in our first class, people that were waiting to earn their credential, and then new people that came in that said, man, I could learn this online now, way more convenient. I can't really do anything anyways because COVID. And I think everybody should be happy. And that's when we start to hire you. And so we come into your training sessions.
Why did you need to hire us, even though you were a strong company by all the metrics that we typically measure strong companies by?
So I always answer that like twofold, right? So when I met you in 2019 and then I heard you speak, I was like, oh, not only is he a great keynote speaker with a great message, but I think I could use this in my business. This is something different than the leadership training that I think a lot of us receive throughout our career. So I liked it. But then in that pivot in those 45 days where I thought everybody should be happy, people really weren't. And I was like, is it overworked? Is it the pandemic? If it what's going on in our society at that time? Is it something internal? We're just not jiving. And it's just that gut feeling. I'm sure there's business owners listening right now where there's just that time in your career where you're like, something's not right. And I keep going back to Fred and Tracy, and I think this could be the solution. And so it was really the both. I believed in, I knew our team at the time was like only 11 people and needed it. And then something wasn't right after the pandemic where I thought we should all be celebrating, but we actually weren't talking, weren't celebrating, in fact, arguing more than ever before. And so we go in, and I really knew I needed it in this very moment. And I think we all have this in our career. It was the second out of 9 sessions. Maybe you remember this. We're on a Zoom call. There's 11 of us sitting in this Zoom call.
And I'm
you're our
doing it
facilitator.
virtually.
Yeah, you're our
Yes.
facilitator too. So you're trying to drag some early stuff out of us so you could do your thing. And Jocelyn, who's our director of operations, finally speaks up. She's also a dear friend of mine outside of work. And she goes, Scott, no one's saying it right now, so I'll just say it. All 11 of us are looking for jobs. And I would say at least half of those 11 people, Fred, you know them, are like
lifetime
friend, like Josh Koza, who's our director of strategic relationships. I was the best man in his wedding. I've known him for years. No one told me they're all looking for jobs. We just pivoted a whole company. We're like heroes in our profession. We're making hundreds of thousands of dollars now, but everybody wants to leave. And that's when it kind of probably solidified, maybe is the word I'm looking for, that we need to be here. So I said, guys, let's work through these next 6 or 7 sessions and unpack some stuff. And if after these 9 sessions or whatever it was, we're still not together, we can part ways. Just give me 9, just give me another 7 sessions. And so we did, and that's where this growth train just exploded for us. And we've grown by 40% year over year, doubling our company every other year since then. And so we've gone from maybe 1,500 SEPAs walking into 2020 to nearly 10,000 SEPAs in that short 5 or 6 year period. And I think one of the pieces of that puzzle was the training that you provide that really affects this human capital and cultural capital issue that I didn't really know we had at EPI. But it came from, I guess, to round that long story out, Fred, I said, in order to decentralize yourself as an owner, you have to create an organization that's about we and not about me.
Yeah.
In 2020, the organization was really about me.
Yeah.
The company events that we were doing, they were like playing paintball. Not everybody wants to play paintball, right? It was the core values hanging on the wall that they're like, I don't believe in those at all, but Scott said I should. It's meetings after the meetings. You know, it's, I know there's something here, but let's just shove it under the table and we'll get to it some other time. It's all that stuff.
If I have a conflict with someone, I'm not going to deliver the mail. And now I'll talk to 7 other people.
Yeah, but I will talk about it,
Yes.
but I won't talk about it with you.
That's right.
So can you imagine the stress of the pandemic, the stress of just the American society at that same time, and then all of us hating to come to work each day. Like, what a tough time. What a tough time. And so
what was, from all accounts, you've just described the kind of business that most business owners would kill for, so to speak.
Yeah.
But yet there was something missing, and that was vitally missing, that to the point that you had, I remember your leadership team was one of the youngest leadership teams that I have ever worked for. And
It was like all my friends.
Yeah.
You know, it was like people that were, and there's probably a lot of startup entrepreneurs that are listening, right? You start hiring people that are like loyal and trustworthy. They're like, hey, can you run events? Not really. I broker freight, but I'd love to come work for you guys. Like, super entrepreneurial organization. I want to be a part of that with a good product and service. But yeah, super young.
And either in their 20s or 30s. You were the oldest.
I was the oldest at 35, 34. Yeah.
And yet it was an amazing, gifted team.
Mm-hmm.
What was missing that you would say to a leader, if you want to grow and scale a company,
Mm-hmm.
and you want it to outlive your days, and yet you want it to have meaning in the lives of other people long after you're gone, what would you say to the leaders that you better make sure you pay attention to what?
That's a great question. I would say, oh man, you put me on the spot. I would say, I think you better pay attention to the 4 intangible capitals. I'm going to just use our stuff.
Okay.
Right? To me, if you're looking at your business, right? Not set aside the personal financial and the personal side. To me, you have to be paying attention to what is your role inside of the 4 C's: human, cultural, structural, and customer. And is it relying on you? Because if it's relying on you, it won't survive. There is no legacy. If all of your customers are doing business with you because they like Scott Snider, that's not going to work if Scott Snider's not around, right? And if everybody's following a leader that is Scott Snider and there's not a community of leaders within EPI, well, then when Scott retires and leaves, well, I'm going to go find another job. And so so I really think it starts with how centralized in your business are you, and can you begin to empower your business and people to decentralize so that they move away and everybody's empowered. For us at EPI, it really was a people and culture problem that we had. We couldn't communicate. We couldn't make quick decisions.
Didn't trust each other.
We didn't trust each other. And so that our two C's were culture and people in one shot. And I honestly think social, if you were talking to my dad who created our methodology, he would say that social capital is the hardest to get down. That culture, that rhythm that you have. And but once we unlocked both of those, it was you know how I feel about it. I mean, it was absolutely life-changing for personally and professionally for me.
That's fascinating. There are people who hear this and they're going, well, of course, that makes perfect common sense. We know it up here.
Yeah.
I mean, here you were talking about teaching companies not to rely upon the owner, and yet you're talking about a company that was relying upon the owner.
We're not living our own methodology.
Yes.
No doubt.
And we all can identify that we've got certain areas in our company, corporate life that we're not in integrity with what we teach. But to allow that to happen, to allow your team to begin to make decisions, to quote, give your power away.
Yep.
You got to let go of control. And
I mean, you just got, it's the old, I always think it's funny saying it because I think we hear it a lot, but it's like the get comfortable being uncomfortable.
Yeah.
You just have to start it. Now, there's a way to do it, right? For me, right after. So in our business, I budget for it. So quite literally, there's a line item for it because we know that people are going to mess up and it's going to cost us money. It's a lot easier for me to swallow when I know it's a part of the budget, right? So and the better we get, the less of that budget I use. So my company actually becomes more profitable. So you can actually measure it as well. And then it's like I take the saying that me and my dad have into my executive team particularly, right? Because those are the folks that report directly to me now. And I have to be saying yes more than no. So if you're my director of membership, and every time you present an idea or every time you do something, you get in trouble, and every time you present an idea, I go, no, we're not going to do it that way. You're not going to be empowered to go do stuff another way. So now the business begins very centralized around Scott. But when I go, man, there's not one way to do things. I wouldn't do it Fred's way, and I don't necessarily agree with him, but I'm going to say yes. And then it's going to work, and it might even work better. And even though it was really uncomfortable because now I'm wrong and all of that, we're all thrusting the organization forward. We literally were just having this conversation because I think it's so fascinating to study, because I think it's like a great American society conversation as well. If you looked at the 46 people that work at EPI, me and some of the people there, polar opposite on political view, perhaps religion, ways of life, ways of thinking about money and family,
interests,
general interests and hobbies. But I do believe that we all, regardless of that, have the same moral compass, guided by the same core values, accelerated by the trust accelerator. So we have the same mentality at the end of the day. So we have this unique ability, I guess, to thrust an organization forward. I just find that whole thing fascinating. And I was just talking about it, particularly with 3 people on my marketing team who, those 3 and me, the 4 of us in the room, we're aligned, but we definitely have different interests, political views, ways of life. But we all come together to thrust an organization forward. And I always think it's just super interesting. But I built an organization that's really just not about me. I'm a part of the puzzle, but it's about me. It's about Paige. It's about Donovan. It's about Sam. And then that collective being. But that's taken a lot of work, right? It's taken like 5 years for me to catch myself. Because you asked earlier about my leadership style when you first met me. I think I'm a nice guy and everything, but I was pretty like militant. Like I probably would have been like a good drill sergeant, or not anymore, right? I'm a little softer these days at 40.
Well,
but nonetheless,
let's explore that.
Sure.
You had a landscaping company when you were started in your late teens, and
16, I think,
and it was very successful.
Yeah.
You sold it years later, but you weren't the leader back then that you are today.
Mm-mm.
What would what were the key pivots that you had to make to be able to influence people and empower people and pull people together? Like you said, it's like herding cats, but it becomes magical when they all start going in the same direction at the same pace. I mean, what were some of the key things that I'm sure were painful for you to have to change?
I think for me, and my wife talks about this still today, so I haven't perfected it by any means, it's empathy. Like, I actually had to start putting myself in other people's shoes, caring more about others around me, and listening. And then understanding, I also think, understanding the different generations in the workforce and what they wanted. I would say most of the people that were working at my landscaping company were 45 plus, where now at EPI we're like 50 and under. So different types of folks and different types of generations. The people that work at EPI today, they want a flexible work schedule. They want professional growth opportunities. They want to be left alone and let them do their work, you know. They want a place and that they want to come to a place that's safe, that matters. And so recognizing that and then, again, creating that for people around me, I think has been critical for my leadership style. But I think it ends with, I wouldn't know all that stuff about those people if I didn't start asking questions. Right? I didn't say, well, who is Fred? He works here 50 hours a week. I should probably care about him.
Yeah.
And then I know people are probably listening saying, well, Scott, that was super easy. When you had 11 people, you have 50 or 46 people now. Well, I don't necessarily do that to every single employee now just by sheer size, but my managers do. And so that has been gifted down to our executive team, our leadership team, and then our frontline team leads and managers where, like, again, we care more about each other than we ever had before. I think you taught us this too. Like, if I have a bad day at home before I go into the office, people are going to know about it. So why not just talk about it? Yeah. And on the flip side, if I have a bad day at home, at the office, I'm probably going to bring it home. And so rather than shove it under the table, let's start talking about it, because actually we're all just people. We like to work. We like to be moms and dads. We like to be golfers and boaters. Like, there's a bunch of different stuff. And I think the leadership style, or just society today, business is personal. But it's not the old school stuff like back in the 80s where they were saying, well, why are you crying in here?
That's right.
Right? Like that.
I don't want to know your problems.
Yeah, this is business.
Yeah,
we're here to hit some numbers.
Leave your problems at home.
Yeah, it's just not the way it is anymore. It honestly might have worked, right?
Yeah.
Wildly successful companies through the 70s, 80s, 90s, but the generations have changed. And so if we want to grow companies today with 20-year-old, 30-year-old, 40-year-old, 50-year-old people working there, we have to understand that there's just different type of people. And so you have to be able to pivot your leadership style. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
absolutely. It's like the generation, and every generation thinks that the generation that succeeds them somehow doesn't have it together.
Yeah, of course, right.
And yet what we know is that every generation brought something unique and powerful.
Yeah.
And we know that what Generation Z, what the millennial generation has brought to the table is an insistence that if I'm going to spend time with these people more than I spend time with my own family,
right?
I want to develop some genuine relationships. I want to know what's going on in their lives. I want to know their stories.
And I want to know that we somewhat believe in the same things, right? Like, we developed those, so we quite literally, I talk about this all the time, we took that plaque off the wall. We still have the plaque so I can look at it and remember, right? And we put new plaques up on the wall with revised core values that were built by the entire organization. And by doing that, you also have like lived core values outside of the profession. There are core values that sit on that wall that are people like, yeah, that's just me. That's who I am, right? Like, I always lean into the purposeful growth core value that we have at EPI. Like, I'm a lifelong learner, whether I'm on the soccer field or I'm in the business. And that's just a part of who I am. So I think if you looked at the 46 people that work at EPI, they would look at the core value wall and say, to your point, I show up here and work 10 hours a day, and then I go home and I still believe in the same stuff. So I see myself here, like that. This is where I should be. this company and I very much align. I want to grow a whole career here. We don't have a lot of people that leave EPI because they found something better per se, right?
Yeah.
Like they feel right at home.
You're, I thought you talked about when Jocelyn said that the 11 of us are all looking for jobs.
Yeah.
And yet I remember not a single person left when that
No.
process was over. Now,
No.
over time, there's natural attrition.
Sure.
People make life choices. People start to have children. That happens. But it wasn't, when people left, some people left eventually, it was not because of toxicity. It was because life happens.
I think there's 9 out of the 11 that are still there, though. I think it's 9.
Wow.
I was trying to think about it as you started to like lay that out. I think it's 9 out of the 11 are still there.
That's
It was
amazing.
the original Initiative 1 group.
And it's all around finding a common purpose. It's all around finding something that's greater than yourself, that you can subjugate your own personal interest for a greater cause.
100%. Yeah. Yeah, it's well said. Very well said.
But let's talk about the growth of your company.
Okay.
Where were you when we first met you all?
Yeah, we were at I think I said, right? We were like 1,500 members to give kind of maybe the layout, right? We're at like 1,500 members. We're maybe onboarding another 500 new SEPAs a year. And there's maybe 450 people at our summit. Today, we're onboarding 3,200 new SEPAs a year. We have nearly a 10,000 membership base. And we're hitting 1,000 people plus at our summit. We've gone from those 11 people that we referred to 46 people. And so we've gone from 5 chapters to 35 chapters around the United States. So just significant growth. It's kind of like you kind of flashes. You got to really kind of appreciate it.
And in the 7 years or so since we started working together, the company's gone from approximately $3 million in evaluation to what?
Well, $3 million in revenue to about $16 million in revenue.
Okay.
Yeah, so another big jump.
And if you're typical, assuming, and you have built the kind of company that's not dependent upon you. I mean, you're talking a company that's in the many millions in terms of value.
I mean, we look at a range of value in our teachings, right? It's really weird to talk about this about your own business when you kind of teach this as well, right? So businesses, for the audience, privately held companies sell or trade within a range of multiples. The question becomes, right, for many business owners is why we have 2 similar companies, both professional education companies. Why is one selling for a 5 times multiple and why is another selling for the 15 times? And so, and it's really a product of these 4 intangible capitals that we've been talking about that equate to 80% of the company's value. And so, yes, to your point, Fred, the company that was there in 2020 is a company that has concentrated on value acceleration and value growth, and that has been now aligned to the business owners, me and Dad, business, personal, and financial goals. And so I'd like to think that we would trade towards the right of center, right? Venturing towards what we would call a best-in-class company. And it's because of things, what we talked about, that the stuff that you do at your company, to systematizing and scaling some of our processes, to really diversifying some of our customers and not making it necessarily about the Chris and Scott Snider show, but really making it about the community of SEPAs that are really stewards of the methodology now out in the marketplace. But very deliberate and intentional growth around those types of things, and then obviously lay over the personal financial stuff that comes with everybody's business owner's life as well.
So, congratulations, man. Is there a ton of hard work, not only by you and your dad, but certainly by every member of your team?
Yeah.
It takes a village, doesn't it, buddy?
Well, that's why the core value sits on the wall of purposeful growth. I certainly think it takes a village, but you have to be a lifelong learner. Like, we're an organization that has never arrived, right? We're always like, we're there and then we're going to keep going. We're there and we're keeping going. And it's not perfectionism. It's a performance, right? Where
we call it commitment to excellence.
Yes, a commitment to excellence, right? Yeah. We're not finding perfection, but a commitment to excellence long term I think is key. So absolutely, and it's all when I think when you see new people come into EPI too, they're like, whoa, this organization really challenges me not to be a better business person, but a better person. And so, yeah, it takes a lot of work. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
As we begin to wind it down, let
Sure.
me ask you, how did if you were to describe the impact of the work of Initiative One, I mean, how would you describe it?
I think it says it right inside of your program, transformational. Like we talked a lot about our business story on your show today, but it has made me quite literally a better person. I have better friends than I've ever had. I'm more engaged with my family members than I've ever had. I'm more sure of myself because I understand my purpose.
Yes.
There's more, I can say no and say no okay because I'm like, oh man, that's just not on purpose for me. And it's just, that's totally fine. I'm a better husband. I'm a better dad. I have a better relationship with my dad than I did when I first met you. And, but yeah, I would say, I think it says it right in the stuff that you guys do at Initiative One. It's transformational if you let it be.
Yes.
Right? If you let it be.
There's no magic pill.
No.
You know,
You got to fall into it.
That's right. So one of the things I love to do with my guests, and you're more than a guest, you're a dear friend and colleague, but I'm going to ask you this question.
Oh, man. Another thing you haven't prepared me
Oh,
for?
it's good.
Okay.
You're ready.
All right.
It'll come out easily. If there were the one thing that you've learned about leadership that you would convey to the audience, what would it be that you would say, this is a must that is top of mind for me?
I don't know if this will surprise you or not, but the first thing that comes to mind when you ask that to me, and I think the one thing that I've done the best over my 6 years of knowing you and falling into your programs is you have to have some grace, is what I would call it. Is that people are showing up in a way that, and you might not know what's going on behind the scenes. So like, to me, I talk about this with my kids all the time. It's like, why are we assuming people are just bad? Yeah. Like you have
Negative intent.
absolutely no idea why that person is acting that way in that particular moment. And maybe this is the confusion sometimes, or like this will solve some of the confusion that we have sometimes when we're like, man, I thought that guy was a really good guy, but now he's this way. And I'm like, well, why are we assuming that he's gone away from good and now is bad? So it gets me in trouble sometimes too, right? In this new way of thinking. But if you're like out there leading a big company, like lead with some grace. Like people are going to mess up. People have a bunch of stuff going on in their lives. Just ask questions before you judge. And then you'll come to the truth. And you'll be like, oh, that guy's acting that way because he just got a divorce. Or his wife, he just found out that his wife had cancer. And she's got cancer and she's had it for the last 3 months. And he don't want to talk about it with anybody. No wonder he's a little on edge. Yeah. Why are we just assuming people are not hitting their numbers because they're bad? Why don't we ask more questions? But when you have that grace and you have that empathy and you stay curious, people are like, wow, I've never had an owner of the company ask me about my wife that has cancer. I really appreciate that, man. And I'm like, yeah, I noticed like you were hitting your numbers, but now you're not. What's up, man? Yeah. But again, you could go down a rabbit hole here because if we didn't put it on the table, if we weren't in an area where we were accelerating trust, we probably wouldn't be able to have that. But I would say I used to just judge. Yeah. But I think I have more grace than I ever have, and I find myself asking others around me like, why that? Can you just have a little or ask a question before you judge? And so I just think I would say that to leaders listening, and I think that lead with some grace.
That's powerful. I mean, there's not a person here who would disagree with this. I'm glad that people cannot judge my entire life based on my worst moment.
Well, yeah, exactly right.
You know?
Yeah. Well, I think a lot of people do, though.
Yeah.
You know, like I really do. I really feel a lot of people do. But I think quality leaders of the future, lead with grace.
You bet. This has been so enjoyable, and I knew
Thanks,
I knew we were going to have a great time. And you all, I want to again let you know our guest is Mr. Scott Snider. He is the president of
the exit planning.
The exit EPI. I always call it EPI.
I just blew this guy's mind today, right? And he's like, man.
Yeah, my mind is
he's
going
thinking
like,
about dinner.
It's going like this right now. But an outstanding leader, one of the most engaging, inspiring leaders that I know, and he certainly inspires me every time that we talk. For those of you who want to know more about the work of Initiative One and how we can help you, go to our website at initiativeone.com. Check us out. Sign up for one of our think tanks. Reach out to us. We would be glad to have dialogue with you and just to listen to you, and hope that we can help you make some significant changes that lead to powerful results. Again, thank you for joining us, Scott. It's been
Thanks,
a real
man.
pleasure, my friend.
Appreciate it. Yeah.
All right. You all have a great day, and we'll talk to you soon.